Hello everyone, and welcome back to Lesson 14 of my English videos. Today we're going to talk about the active and passive voice. What is the active voice? Active voice means that a sentence has a subject that acts upon its verb. What is the passive voice? Passive voice means that a subject is a recipient of a verb's action. The two grammatical voices are active and passive. So what's the actual difference between the active and passive voice? Active voice, when the subject of a sentence performs the verb's action, we say that the sentence is in the active voice. Sentences in the active voice have a strong, direct, and clear tone. For example, monkeys adore bananas. The cashier counted the money. The dog chased the squirrel. So all these are in the active voice. All three sentences have a basic active voice construction: subject, verb, and object. The subject, monkey, performs the action described by adore. The subject, cashier, performs the action described by counted. The subject, dog, performs the action described by chased. The subjects are doing, doing, doing. They take action in their sentences. The active voice reminds us of the popular Nike slogan, "Just do it." The passive voice. A sentence is in the passive voice, on the other hand, when the subject is acted on by the verb. The passive voice is always constructed with a conjugated form of to be plus the verb's past participle. Doing this usually generates a preposition as well. That sounds much more complicated than it is. Passive voice is actually quite easy to detect. For these examples of passive voice, we will transform the three previous active sentences to illustrate the difference. Bananas are adored by monkeys. The money was counted by the cashier. The squirrel was chased by the dog. So all three are passive voice. Let's take a closer look at the first pair of sentences. Monkeys adore bananas, and bananas are adored by monkeys. So we have the subject in blue, the verb in pink, and the object in purple. So you can see how the order of the words changes when we change the sentence from active to passive. The active sentence consists of monkeys, which is the subject, plus adore, which is the verb, plus bananas, which is the object. The passive sentence consists of bananas, which is the object, plus are adored, a form of to be, plus the past participle, adored, plus by, which is a preposition, plus monkeys, which is the subject. Making the sentence passive flipped the structure and necessitated the preposition by. In fact, all three of the transformed sentences above required the addition of by. When to use active and passive voice. Using the active voice conveys a strong, clear tone, and the passive voice is subtler and weaker. Here's some good advice. Don't use the passive voice just because you think it sounds a bit fancier than the active voice. That said, there are times the passive voice is useful and called for. Take "the squirrel was chased by the dog," for example. That sentence construction would be helpful if the squirrel were the focus of your writing and not the dog. So if you want to focus on the object, which is the squirrel, then you can use the passive. A good rule of thumb is to try to put the majority of your sentences in the active voice, unless you truly can't write your sentence in any other way. How to change a sentence in passive voice to active voice. Here's an example of a business communication that could be strengthened by abandoning the passive voice. An error has occurred with your account, but every attempt was made to remedy it. That sentence is not incorrect, but it does sound a bit stiff and dishonest. It sounds less trustworthy than it could, almost evasive. Who wants to do business with a company that avoids taking full responsibility by slipping into formal passive voice territory? Face the responsibility head-on instead. Own it. We made an error with your account, but we have made every attempt to remedy it. So here we changed the passive sentence into the active. To make that sentence active rather than passive, I identified the subject, we. It was our company that was responsible. If there are any questions, I can be reached at the number below. So here's another example of a sentence that's in the passive voice when it does not need to be in the passive voice. Here's a tip, what to remember. To change a sentence from passive voice into active voice, identify the subject. The structure of this sentence is weak because it doesn't identify the subjects in either clause. Let's unveil them. Who might have questions to ask? The person being addressed, which is you. Who will be doing the reaching by calling the number below? It is still the communications recipient, which is also you. So this is how we change it from the passive to the active. If you have any questions, call me at the number below. So here it's much clearer and it's very simple. I hope you learned something new in this video. Thanks for watching. As always, see you in the next one.